Hello, Mike Conway here with my daughter Natalie, and together we make the wines of Latah Creek. Today we're talking about Chardonnay, and Chardonnay is an unusual variety because the grape itself is very neutral tasting. There isn't anything distinctive about Chardonnay that you do get in maybe some other varieties. So Chardonnay allows the winemaker to impart more of their preferences on how the wine should be made, and it also is characteristic of different regions.
Yeah, I think when we say neutral, meaning that instead of being distinct in that no matter where around the world it is grown, it would have this distinct flavor, for Chardonnay, it actually picks up the flavors differently at each location that it is grown. So Washington is going to taste different than Argentina and things like that. So it never has one specific characteristic. So each Chardonnay from anywhere around the world, even in Washington State, is all going to be unique.
Right. And I'm going to let Natalie pour this real quick while I talk a little science here and give you a little education on what we're going to refer to as malolactic fermentation. Everyone knows that wine goes through fermentation. Typically it's a yeast fermentation which converts the sugar to alcohol. But in some wines, in virtually all red wines and almost no white wines except Chardonnay, the wines go through a secondary fermentation, which is done by a bacteria. And it's converting a very harsh, very acidic malic acid to a much softer, lower acidic lactic acid. So we're going to be referring to malolactic fermentations and how acid is reduced a lot. So just so you have an idea of what it's about. So.
Yeah, malolactic acid tends to, again, harsh acids, but it takes it and it can almost add that buttery characteristic that sometimes you're used to in Chardonnays. And as a winemaker, one of the things that you can change or do and whatever you're wanting to do is that malolactic of if you don't do any, or if you go full malolactic where it takes all of the malic acid and converts it to lactic acid, or if you stop it part way. And this Chardonnay, our 16, is one where we stopped it at about the 50% point because we didn't want it to be too buttery.
Well, we were tasting this wine as it was fermented virtually every day. And when it got down to about half done on the malolactic fermentation, the yeast fermentation was already complete, we said, we really like this. It's a fruit-forward Chardonnay. It's not one that's going to be overpowering in the butter, which sometimes you can get. Some people like that, so don't get me wrong. We prefer the more Washington-style Chardonnay, which is more fruit-forward. Chardonnay is also unique in that winemakers will choose to ferment it in oak. They'll choose to ferment it in stainless steel. They'll age it in oak after stainless steel fermentation. So there's lots of options that the winemakers do with this wine that don't happen in most other wines. So.
And for Latah Creek in particular, even with our red wines, we don't add as much oak as a lot of other places because we want you to taste the fruit before you taste anything else. So you'll have the underlying note of toastiness, but it's not going to be the first thing you taste.
Okay. So back to Chardonnay. This is a wonderful Chardonnay, and this is a variety that if you have not tried, or if you said, oh, I don't like Chardonnay, you owe it yourself to try multiple Chardonnays because it's different from every producer, from every area in the world. But this Chardonnay is very fruit forward. I get in here Meyer lemons and almost tropical fruit, which is unusual for a dry wine to have a tropical fruit character to it. But this has definitely got papaya and mango.
And it does have some of the apple characteristics, which is similar to a lot of white wines in Washington State, just because apples are in there. But and it's the cooler weather at night that allows some of those flavors to go in. But I can taste that apple.
Mm-hmm. This is a Chardonnay that we have been making for over 30 years. Our first Chardonnay production was actually in 1983. And here we are many, many years later. We've tried a number of different vineyard locations, and we have found what we think for our style of Chardonnay is the best that there is. I think this is truly our best Chardonnay we've produced to date.
It got
gold medal already.
Double gold at Seattle Wine Awards, and then Wine Press Northwest rated it at their excellent rating and just raved about it, just because it is that fruit-forward nature, and you really just...
And it's a wonderful Chardonnay, so you owe it yourself to try it.
Mm-hmm. So
It just
it's really wonderful.
it just fills your mouth with lots of different things. It's amazing. You can almost
I get a little lime.
little lime and hazelnut character.
Yeah.
It goes really well with food. Elena has paired it with a
Lemon pepper chicken tenders. It's on the website. Basically marinatable in lemon pepper, but that lemon and that pepper just goes so well with
really well. And
that.
then anything with sweet onions or seafood that's a little heavier in the sauce, even a red tomato sauce would go well with that.
Yeah,
So,
my favorite recipes, we have a crab Chardonnay, so it's Chardonnay, crab and this Chardonnay broth, basically. That's one of my favorite meals. And then she has a Chardonnay red onion soup. That's really wonderful.
So, 2016 Chardonnay, we just released this a few months ago. It's going to be around for a little bit of time, so enjoy it while you can. Cheers.
Cheers.